When I started, I don't know if you could call it art or not, but my adoptive father, I'm adopted for what it's worth, built model airplanes. And I used to take his scraps and make my own little model airplanes and stuff out of his scrap balsa. And I've been working with wood ever since. I mean, I've always had a wood project. So it's been a lifetime. It comes to me, how long did it take to make something? Well, there are a lot of artists, and the truth is a lifetime, because you don't just develop the skill sets necessary, but you have to start somewhere. So I started at about 5 years old, I think. Really and truly, the inspiration for the next piece comes from the last piece with me. As a retired engineer, I spent my life designing equipment, and that's where really most of this stuff comes from. And what I do, I say, well, if I do this, I can do this, I can do that, I can change this. And in this case, it's probably a new element of risk-taking, because I do a lot of open segment work. And the reason I've concentrated on the open segment work more than the solid segments is because there are a lot of people, not a lot, but there are a good number of people doing the solid segments, and the open segmentation is not. And I'm really and truly try to do what I do as original. Now, I've copied a few things here and there, and things like form, I mean, I don't care what kind of form you talk about, it probably exists already, but I wanted to do something that's a little on and beyond what somebody else was doing. I'm a chipper. I take little chips of wood and glue them together, but I have to know where I'm going to end up before I start. And so there's a lot of design work that goes in on the front end. And I have the very, I guess you say, good fortune of having worked with computers and design stuff. Now, I use a CAD system that's similar to Design CAD. It doesn't do anything for you, but it allows you to draw and then tweak what you've drawn to get what you want. And that cuts a lot of corners out than having to physically draw it. So I will go through, and the form is the very first thing that I'll establish. Do I like this form? Is it what I want? Is it the size that I want? Then I'll decide, I'll lay a grid on it that has a solid top to bottom, open segmented grid. Now comes a pattern. And in most cases, I'll try to work with the pattern. How many pieces in the ring? You have to determine that. Do I want any solid or feature rings in the piece? Where, if I do, where am I going to put them? How am I going to make those? How does the rest of the pattern work with that? So it's a design, a pattern, laying the pattern on the design, and that's the first part. Now, how do you make it? And that's a whole different animal. Well, there aren't many people that do the open segment, and there's a reason for that. There's a lot of math involved in it. The solid segments, you can make a ring, glue them together and turn it on a lathe and end up with a vessel. The open segmented work, you have to calculate the size of the pieces in every ring, because they're different based on the diameter. People say you have a lot of patience. It's not patience, it's obsessive behavior, I guess you might say, is part of the reason I do what I do. Because, I don't know, the things that I see when I'm doing a piece, I'm probably not going to live long enough to do what else I want to. They're just things that, well, if I do this and I do this, then I can do this, and I can leave pieces. I mean, that's always a challenge, to leave as many pieces out and keep it together when you're making it. So that's always going through my mind. Really and truly, wood to me, it has its own beauty. Everything I do, I don't paint pieces and I don't dye pieces. But the intrigue to me is the grain of the wood. Now, most of the stuff that I do with the open segments, I have to use a straight grain because you get chip outs and things if you don't. I have 60 or 70 different kinds of wood that I use, and a lot of them are exotic woods from Brazil or Africa or different parts of the world. And that's where the colors come from. And the other thing I've learned over time is don't put too many things. 4 is probably the most you want to put in a piece, or I do. You need to do it with fewer pieces. I'm an artisan. There's a small differentiation. An artisan, to me, is somebody that I've developed skill sets over the years. And there's a lot of different ones. There are different ones in each piece. Is applying those skill sets to a piece of art. An artist, I guess, would be something that just complete originality. Well, none of my forms are original. I don't think you can find an original form. Wood has taken over the years, I don't know, a stigma of it's furniture, if it's crafts, or, you know, this is what you do, and got a machine and a router that does this and does that and everything else. And I think there's a whole different area here that, you know, it's like somebody that carves. There's a certain talent that I don't carve, but there's a certain talent it takes to do that. What I do is build, and I love it. I'm still trying to answer your question why I do what I do, because I can't figure that out yet. But I hope that people will recognize it as its art form. It wasn't built for function. It wasn't designed for function. It was a form, a pattern, a fit, how to do it, a challenge, a puzzle, and that's why it's what it is. It's fun. This is fun stuff. I go out there and have fun. I have to keep my wife out there once because, you know, sometimes she's got demands for other things. That's not fun. This is fun. Out, you know, this is a fun place. So it's fun. I mean, what else can you say about it? It's fun. That's why. That's the answer to your why. Why do you do it? Fun. It's fun.